welcome to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange Q&A for June. And we've got really interesting questions which we're going to answer. And the first one is, of course, June is the month of roses, and Josie is the rose queen of this place. So I'm handing to her, what should you be doing to maintain your roses to look as wonderful as they possibly can?
Thank you for the accolade. So roses, yes, they are at their glorious best now. So you've got to keep on top of deadheading them, really. Hopefully you've got remontant roses, which means they'll reflower through the year. So keep on top of deadheading them. Especially if we have quite a bit of rain, they soon go brown. So you want to take all that off. And just be aware if they're hip formers, some are hip formers and only flower once, definitely don't deadhead those. Otherwise you lose all your hips, obviously. Yeah. And once they flowering will tail off a little bit once they've had their first flush. And then if you feed your roses, you can give them an extra feed now. We tend not to do that because we mulch our roses before they start into growth in March. So we give them a good organic mulch in March, and that lasts them through the whole season. But I know some people do like to feed again after the first flush. So June is the time to do that.
Okay, great. And then, of course, we always underplant our roses with salvias. So you haven't done that in May because they're tender. We would put them out in early June, and that will keep them black spot and mildew free. But we've done various podcasts on that, so you can definitely look that up on the website. So the next question was, what are you harvesting to eat at this time of year? So I think of June as the first real bountiful month of the summer. So we tend to be picking courgettes by now, particularly if you can give them a bit of shelter. And that could just be a straw bale on two sides and then a bit of sheet of plastic over the top. But just protecting courgettes like that means you can plant them out at the end of April. And that means they'll be cropping now in June. And it's something rather nice about those first season courgettes, and always pick them young and small. And then tons and tons of salads. So really crunchy lettuces. So Renderglass lettuce, which is descended from the icebergs, but with much better flavour. Tons of herbs now. So really French tarragon is at its peak. Mint is at its peak. We've got the half-hardies as well now, basil and oregano. So it really is bountiful in the sort of green, luscious things. And you've got the start, of course, of broad beans, peas, the hardy annual shelling things. So we have been picking lots and lots of trugs of the most delicious sugar snap in the world, which I've waxed lyrical about quite often, called Nairobi. So really there's tons. And of course now the beginnings of soft fruit. So strawberries, we've still got rhubarb, the first of the raspberries. So really there is lots and lots and lots to pick and eat from the garden. Josie, over to you.
Yeah, even though your veg patch may be full, people will be noticing gaps in their borders, in the ornamental borders. So sometimes when tulips go over and narcissi go over, you're suddenly left with these gaps that you hadn't accounted for. So that's a good time to put in your half-hardy annuals. You can still be planting those now. Cosmos that you started off in late March, April, they'll be ready to go out now, which are great for plugging gaps. And of course, dahlias. If you've got dahlias still in pots, they can go out to fill any gaps. And chrysanths. So if you're looking for flowers late in the year, then chrysanths are ideal to fill any gaps that have appeared in the borders.
Yeah, great.
And there's better chrysanths than your garage types, as we call them.
Absolutely.
So there's a good selection out there.
Great. And so the final one for June is, how do you maintain plants, including vegetables, growing at this time of year? Do they need feeding, deadheading, etc.? Well, we're not great believers in deadheading, although, of course, we do some deadheading, but we prefer to live head. So certainly as far as cut flowers are concerned, we pick. So sweet peas, picking, like billio, all the hardy annuals, calendulas, salvias, Salvia viridis blue, cerinthe, pick, bring them in, sear the stem ends in boiling water for 5 seconds, plunge them into cold, and off you go into the vase. And are we starting to feed? Yes, sweet peas, because they've been flowering now for about a month by the middle of June. And so we are scattering comfrey pellets around the base. And then anything in containers, on the whole, to be honest, containers with a good peat-free compost won't need feeding till the end of the month. It's normally 6 to 8 weeks of feed that you'll get in a compost. So depending on when you planted them, you might just start to think of doing a liquid seaweed fertilizer every other Friday from the end of June. So a few tips and suggestions for you to make your garden look as fabulous as it can for the month of June.